Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. This one is really tricky for some of you, especially if you are waiting for upcoming characters and you do not have like the luxury of pulling every single unit. One is a popular character that people have been waiting for. Maybe they missed, like you guys missed her first rerun. Some people are actually interested in new changing meta that's coming about, Boothill. And in this video, we're talking about which is actually the better investment value. I'll be talking about it in a few categories, and with all of these better investment videos that we do on the channel, I promise you I'll be as unbiased as I can. None of my bias, only right at the end, I will put in my own personal thoughts and my personal favorite between the two of them, if any of you care for any of that. But first things first, you know we don't waste time with this channel, so let's go ahead and jump right in with current value. I always like to talk about this first because chances are if you are needing to pull them now, instead of say like waiting for Boothill's rerun, likely you want to know what exactly they can do for you, for your account right now. First things first, it's very clear most of us will already know one is a DPS, one is a support. Whenever you look at what you can add to your value now, ask yourself what do you need exactly in this current game state. If you're a brand new player who just joined the game, maybe you miss Akirion, you really just joined in, you have no 5-star DPS, no whatsoever, maybe you joined in Harmony MC time, you didn't even get Doctor ratio and stuff like that. I would say chances are the current value that will do much better for your account is a 5-star DPSs. The 5-star damage dealers are way better than 4 stars. If you are in that boat, I think Boothill you will likely tend towards him. But for most people in the game, I would say that if you join maybe with Doctor Ratio time, Akirion time, which is when like we had a spike of new players joining the game, chances are you may not need a DPS right now, unless of course your second half is not doing so well. If your team in the second half is not doing as well, then perhaps you are in a difficult situation right now. You want to like decide between the two of them. We'll talk about that in a bit. But overall, if you already have a lot of DPS, Boothill definitely offers you an interesting playstyle, especially if you're going into the break dynamics. For example, with a team composition like Runmei, for example, with a team composition like Harmony MC. This is, of course, the Preservation MC here. But Harmony MC, Boothill, Runmei, likely going to be very interesting team compositions. If you want more variety of team compositions, we go in depth into the many styles you can play him right now in the game. Check our team composition video for Boothill. That is going to be a lot to talk about. It's like a whole video on its own, but still very interesting playstyle. Very flexible as well, because this character can be played as a main DPS and he can eventually be moved on to a flexible sub DPS because his out actually drops in physical weakness, which means he's a character that can pretty much play in almost any single team. He'll always be doing some sort of utility thereafter, very similar to the likes of a character like Shui in a sense. So that's enough talk about Boothill. Now comes the tricky part, which is Fuxuan. If this was any other character, the other defensive character other than maybe like Aventurine probably is like some people say is the most competitive with her, I would say that if it's pretty much even fight. But because Fuxuan here is tried and tested to be so strong, best in slot for quantum teams, and this is her first rerun, chances are her value here, you likely might not be able to get her second rerun anytime soon. So far we haven't had a second rerun. This is the challenging part. What does she offer currently? I think that she offers a best in slot quantum team. She offers very good damage reduction across the board if you need any of that. If you're running with any 4-star healer in the game or 4-star preservation unit and you're looking for someone to solidify your roster, I think Fuxuan is a very strong pick currently in the game. She's top 2. Some people would say Aventurine and Fuxuan. Some people will put Aventurine on top. Some people will put Fuxuan on top. This video is not to discuss both of them. If you're interested in that, you can check out on the channel. We have a debate going on over there already in a very similar fashion, which is the better investment. But I think she's a really strong. You can't go wrong with a Fuxuan pool in current meta. But looking at the current game state, what it adds to your account in terms of the team compositions that you go isn't exactly the only thing we need to consider. We also need to consider alternatives, which is kind of like what we were doing when we were pointing out the different characters and what they play into. Boothill obviously plays into break. Fuxuan plays into many team combos because she's a defensive unit, preservation units. They are generally more flexible. But who are their alternatives? I think if you were to ask me, Boothill, if you're talking about the break team that he's starting to go into, this is like a fork road in Honkai Star Rail, where the developers are trying to push some people over to break teams, some people into follow-up teams, and thereafter whatever is left, they might continue expanding on that. Depending on what the upcoming characters might be, it could show us that they are doubling down on going to the break route, maybe wanting to make it more relevant in the game so they can sell more characters, make more money out of that. if that's the angle, Boothill definitely does look quite interesting for future, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So Boothill here, alternatives for break, very few. You have a character like Xue, who is very similar. If you are wondering whether you will work well with Boothill, try to play Xue a little bit first to see how she works, whether you like her scaling and stuff like that, the overall vibe her kit and scaling with break effect. Of course, Boothill is a damage dealer, so he will compete with a lot of other damage dealers in the game. But if you will ask me about break effect, probably you don't have many options right now. Alternatives in version 2.2. 2.3, who knows, maybe a prominent DPS might also be skilled with break, but likely you can also put them together if you are super fat whale or super lucky, either one. Other than that, Hun DPS, he competes with everyone in the Hun space for single target damage dealing. But one thing's for sure is he's really very versatile because he implants weakness. So I would say that he also kind of competes with Silverwolf, especially in a mono physical team. The question is, do you want to put Silverwolf in a mono physical, or will you rather slap on Boothill to add more damage on the side? Because Silverwolf still adds defense shredding, she adds other debuffs on the enemy, but one thing to note is she can drop quantum weakness sometimes instead of the physical weakness. So at least Boothill adds a little bit of reliability and damage there. So there are alternatives, Silverwolf and Boothill, just fewer than if not in the physical team. So that is for Boothill's aspect of things. I would say not too much, to be really honest. His specialty is probably one of the best in his slot, best in class rather. Very similar to how Topaz and Nambi was when she first came about in the follow-up category. Just that Boothill is more offensive than Topaz is, because Topaz can be a very good support tool. So Fuxuan here, her main true competition actually is eventually in the preservation slot, but if you expand that, she basically competes with the other 5-star sustains, and even broadening that is any of the other sustains that you have in the game. For example, like Gallagher, for example, like March 7, blah blah blah, Links and etc. The one true character that she competes with the most, because Aventrine likely is going to play on one side, Fuxuan on the other, the true character that she's competing a lot with is Links, because Links is a quantum sustain unit, and they both compete for the same slot in a mono quantum team, which is currently what Fuxuan is best in slot for out of all of the defensive units. So the main consideration is, do you have your Links very well built? Do you feel that she's sufficient, insufficient? Fuxuan is very good on auto battle, so if any of you care about auto battling, she's a very excellent unit where you don't even have to care who you target. That's one thing to note. So Fuxuan's alternatives much more simpler to understand compared to a character, for example, like Boothill, which is not as clear. But overall, if you were to ask me like between both of them, I think Boothill wins for alternatives. In current value, I probably think Fuxuan is slightly ahead, but it's roughly even in terms of who is better than who. If you have more DPSs, really the sustain is slightly better. If you have more sustain, Boothill is likely going to be better if you're lacking DPS. If I were a new player, I will always pick DPS first, then sustain, because you can still get by. You want to clear at least the minimum threshold. You don't have to like get the full star straight away, and a DPS will help you obtain at least a couple of stars. It makes you feel good enjoying the game to clear faster, do more damage, get into the rhythm and stuff. But now let's talk about something that is even more important for these two characters, which is their future value. Now in this section, I want to talk about a few things. Generally, power creep, where the trajectory is going. I see Boothill's future looking very bright. Break effect is definitely something that they want to sell, as we briefly mentioned. It makes a lot of sense. If you've seen our video where we talk about all 8 teams, the weakest team variant, the 8 teams of Honkai style, how we bucket every single character, the one that is currently the weakest is probably break effect teams that scale off with break effect, which is an entire mechanic in Honkai Star Rail and makes no sense why they didn't touch it. So I think that they are definitely going to do something more about it in the game, especially since they just added like Harmony MC in the game, a character that everyone has access to. So I think that they're going to double down on break effect in future. More break sets, more bosses that play around the break effect mechanic. I think his future looks very bright. Fuxuan, on the other hand, more competition is going to come into the game. Compared to her first rerun until now, she has only seen more competition, which means naturally usage rate is going down. Are they even more broken? I would say that no one is still as broken as Fuxuan's kit in general, in terms of having so much in one kit and so difficult to replace, but you see that characters are coming in which offer a lot of other options. Like Fuxuan doesn't do too much damage, Aventrine comes in and say, hey, I do a lot of damage, I fit in best in slot in follow-up teams, which is the upcoming or arguably already meta team right now in 2.2. So they are trying to do something like that, and they will always be introducing more characters in future that will always make older characters struggle. But given how she has held up over time, you can say that Fuxuan is actually quite a solid character performing into competition versus other characters like Zila. Competition comes, she runs away. You have other characters coming into the game. Once the competition comes, they run away. They are no longer relevant and stuff like that, or they immediately get power crap, shift to the bottom. Your sustain characters, if you were to say sustain EOD is always good in future value, you will never get power crap. A character like Luota, who was one of the characters that people will say never will get power crap. Nowadays, people, if you ask them to rank, he's probably the 4th out of the 4 limited 5 stars, which I will agree to a large extent since he's cleansing his kit, the way he works, skill points, efficiency, not too much relevancy right now in the current game state, given though that we don't have too many heavy skill point hungry characters like Imbibe Lune, and we already have like a Sparkle, for example, which a lot of people have to make up for the skill point inefficiency of some characters. So future value, I think, in my opinion, if you are talking about shining bright star coming into the meta, going to be even more valuable. Boothill definitely is going to be number 1. He's going to be playing into a lot of trends in future. Galaxy Rangers, we'll talk about that in a bit. Fuxuan, on the other hand, she is definitely going to get more competition in future, more struggling. I don't see a team that she's going to be even stronger in, unless we have new quantum erudition characters and stuff like that. Maybe for some reason she will be even better. But other than that, one thing for sure is in terms of future proofing, I think Fuxuan stands a chance to sustain in the very long term. If you're making an investment for a very long term, Fuxuan likely will be the better pick for your bang for your buck in 1 year's time, 2 years time. I think you will feel that way too. Boothill, on the other hand, 1 year's time, 2 years time, once the flavor of the month changes, it's no longer break effect, maybe we are back to, I don't know, erudition, destruction. Boothill can be very well cast aside, for example, characters like Zila, for example, characters like Topaz and Nambi. Just putting a thought out there, we are in a flavor of a month season, and the flavor is break. So the next one that I want to talk about, which is a little bit more subjective. So future value talks about a little bit more tangible things in terms of meta. Potential looks at the company itself and certain trends that they have shown across the 5 years plus that we have been covering Hoyoverse games. Boothill plays into Galaxy Ranger thematic. Makes a lot of sense that for any of you who didn't watch the story, I won't spoil too much, but it kind of hints that more Galaxy Rangers might come about. The question is, will they all be on the same team? Because now that we have an apocalyptic shadow boss, the apocalyptic chaos single target boss likely that's going to come about, means Hunt characters will be super meta. Does that mean they're trying to sell us like multiple Galaxy Rangers in one team? So like multiple Hunt DPSs in one team trying to take down like a single target boss to do as much damage as you can. In that case, maybe he does play into the Galaxy Ranger team. For example, like the IP scene Topaz and Nambi Aventrin plays into. You could argue that's the case. Fuxuan, on the other hand, is already a dated character in terms of how Hoyoverse sees it. They are probably trying to do the rerun, selling her in the rerun, but you don't see any trajectory bringing her up. They didn't even like put her in any of the story cutscenes this season, like this entire episode. So she was just a caliphate in a sense. Topaz and Nambi at least had her appearance here and there in this patch as well. But Fuxuan, as you can see, might not have too much lore pushing her up. Senzo Luofu is more or less done. We might have another Senzo arc, but who knows where Fuxuan is going to appear, because she's very, very much a Senzo Luofu character and not a Galaxy Explorer kind of thing, which plays into broader themes. So I think in terms of potential, in terms of salability, Hoyoverse might tend a bit more to characters like Boothill in the near term. Break effect pushing him up. You have you have your Galaxy Rangers thematic pushing him out, and who knows what else, because he doesn't seem like he's from a regular planet. He has like a bit of a jagged teeth, right? So maybe it's some like shark reptilian planet. That's also something that you can explore. Whereas in terms of lore, if Hoyoverse has no incentive to sell a character, they likely will not care too much about the character to make like future buffs. New relics could come out also. That's why we're talking about it in this future section. When Hoyoverse likes that character, they tend to do a lot to like buff that character up to keep making them stronger and stronger and stronger every single patch. If it's their favorite, I don't know why this is doing here. It just slowly moved. But yeah, that's for the potential section. Last but not least, of course, is the free-to-play kit, which we want to compare for both of them. This is where it becomes very, very clear, and finally Fuxuan starts to win a bit, if any of you are wondering. For free-to-plays, I think Fuxuan is way friendlier compared to Boothill. She works very well with 4-star light cones. There's a lot that gives damage reduction. I think she's very fantastic free to play. You don't really need her best in slot gear. Very easy to farm, just slap max HP. Doesn't need anything else on her, pretty much. Signature light cone, I even don't have it. I don't even have Eidolons on my Fuxuan, and she's still so relevant. Boothill, on the other hand, if you have known, he scales very well with break effect, and his light cone, signature light cone, we talked about it on our recent video, is the only one that gives break effect currently in the game. Hunt, light cone, break effect, very very hard to find. Likely, unless we get a free to play one in future, but we have already a 5-star Hunt free to play light cone, so that kind of thing that helps him out in future might not be a catalyst. He's a very expensive character to really build if you want to really see him pop off. Not only is his light cone expensive to get, you have to pull his character. I'm sure he might function well at E0S1, but if we are talking about investment value, we want to compare them apple to apple in terms of the amount of investment value. At face value, E0S0, I think Fuxuan will be a way better character compared to Boothill, but if you're talking about a small investment of E0S1, I think Boothill will start to pop off really, but Fuxuan definitely isn't going to fall behind too far too. So next up, of course, is relics in terms of efficiency. If you're a new player, building this character on first glance is very easy, just simply break effect. But that assumption is quite flawed because the characters will not be 100% broken all the time. His scaling up with break effect is only when enemies are broken. So if you assume that enemies are broken 100% of the time, sure, you can build him just for break effect. But if you need to take them down to the point where they are broken, you still need to care about attack percentage in some sense, which in general makes this character a very split scaling character, or not split scaling since they all synergize together, just that he requires a lot of stats. You need crit, you need speed, you need break effect, you need attack percentage, all of this to really see him performing at his maximum level, which means that you have a long way to keep going, but at the same time, it's not easy to build a character, and I just want to put that out. But it's a good thing for people who play very long because you can keep feeling your Boothill improve as you get better and better gear over time too. So, and that's what I want to talk about. And of course, new sets that come out, Fuxuan isn't really affected by it, so whatever you have now can be used. Boothill, if you have to refarm all over again for new sets that come out in future, I don't think that's very free to play friendly because a lot of energy is wasted, a lot of trail-based energy is wasted. And that is my overall opinion, or rather the comparison. Now, my personal thoughts, this is my opinion section if any of you who are interested. I personally think that Fuxuan is probably one of the 2 best characters in the game. Boothill, on the other hand, plays into new trends that are upcoming in future. I think Boothill is very likened to something like a thematic thing. For example, maybe you're thinking of AI that's coming up, this new chip that helps you generate AI software much faster and stuff like that. Instead of buying it right now into something that is slowly getting up, why don't you wait for like a rerun? For example, when it's already tried and tested, everyone kind of knows. You don't have to play into the risk of what if that chip is faulty or it's only usable for a few prints and then it dies and stuff like that. Wait until everyone tries it, everyone tests it. I think that will be my honest opinion for a person who doesn't have unlimited budget. Fuxuan, on the other hand, has already been tried, already been tested, and she has maintained her standing to a large extent and is still very good today for a character that is very, very old already right now. I still think that she's going to last for the next 6 months, 1 year, even 2 years. She'll still be slightly relevant. It's not easy to power creep this character. We talked about it in the Is She Still Worth It video. You can check that out if you're really interested. But that's just my honest thoughts. Either way, you'll be happy with both of them. I'm very excited to play Boothill. It's a new way of playing the game. I think a new way of playing the game. At the end, investment value is one thing. Having fun, enjoying your favorite character is the more important part because that helps you play the game longer. And if you found this video helpful, do like and subscribe. We do this every single patch for any video that I find useful comparison for. And again, thank you for your time. See you next video.